Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Racing Insiders podcast. I am Kate Dillon with Crate Insider and the Cars Racing Show, and I'm here today with my brother, Jimmy Schiltz, from the Cars Racing Show, and also from Dirt Rap. So, yeah, we're kind of co-hosts, and this week we thought we'd go ahead and do a recap of the show. So, Jimmy, why don't you kick us off?
Well, now you're just throwing on me all of a sudden right away. But I thought it was a great show. I think we get a little more refined and tuned in every time we do a show. And I thought everything was great. It was unfortunate that we had some weather issues that we had to worry about, that I think maybe hurt us with our crowd some, especially people that had to cross mountains and things like that. But for the people that came, it was I think everybody really enjoyed it, and the exhibitors really enjoyed it. So we're really looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, well, I think, is there a favorite part that you had?
For me, always with the car show, my favorite part is just when I have my cars done. That's always stressful trying to get all that stuff done. But once I'm in my booth and it's like I can't do anything else, I can't print anything else, I can't design anything else, and all that stuff, and I can just be in my booth and talk to people. That's super cool. So, but that's if I took my dirt rap side away from it, I would probably say the favorite part is just looking back at is being able to look at the show before anybody else, when we get in there early before everybody else does, and being able to look at how awesome the show is. And I mean, there's so much eye candy in there. I mean, and all the exhibitors just really go over the top with their displays, and there's so many things to see and learn, and it's just a beautiful environment. It really is. And we do a good job staging it with our signage and our carpet and our pipe and drape and all that stuff. We need to brag about that because we do a good job with that stuff, and it certainly looks really professional and it exemplifies what our industry is.
I mean, I think you'll agree with me, but now in doing the reboot of this show, of course, you started this show back in 2011 and 2012, 2013, and kind of took a break until you and I rebooted the whole show in 2020. So since then, this is our fourth show of the reboot. And I have to say, I think it was the best looking out of all of the shows that we've had there.
Oh, by far. I do agree with that. I think that it was, and we actually got a couple of comments, which was really neat, from a couple of exhibitors that, noticed, some of the details that we put into things. So our big overhead sky tubes that we had, and then obviously our upgraded charcoal drape and the pretty, red carpet and our entry kiosk type thing. I thought we were kind of had that down to a science. And so I think we just, every year we kind of get a little more efficient with it, a little better with everything. And so that just always helps just make everything run a little smoother.
Well, and the exhibitors too. I mean, exhibitors went all out in decorating their booths. I mean, we had so many cars in there, and just shined.
It was a great buzz too, because where I was sitting, or in my booth, I could hear the simulator and the Daytona 1 booth going on. And then I could also with Taylor Griffith over there, they had that iRacing setup, which was super cool. You could hear that thing going on. And then with people talking in between, there was a great buzz in the air the entire time. It really felt like when you walked in, you felt like you were racing. They certainly did a fantastic job of setting the racing mood and tone. And I think that was really cool. But, there were so many cars and chassis and the way that they displayed them, was really neat. So,
yeah, that's the first time we've had simulators in there. And we didn't know really till the last minute, or we would have pushed that a little bit more, promoted that. But yeah, we didn't have just one, but we had two.
Did you do either of the simulators?
I did not. No, I didn't get a chance.
I didn't have a chance to go do Bucks at Daytona 1, but I sat in Taylor's there, and it was at Charlotte. Apparently it was supposed to be a really good setup. I don't know, but I tell you, it was way harder on the computer than it is in real life.
Really?
Way harder. Yeah, it was way harder. it was not fun for me. I was like, I don't know. I felt like I was aimed, and maybe that's just an indictment of how I raced too. I don't know. Maybe I was always too straight, but I felt like that in order to be fast, you had to be like aimed at the infield the whole time. And then when you counter steered to the right, it just hooked you and wanted to stick you in the fence. So I thought that was kind of crappy. But you know,
Yeah.
I didn't like looking in like sideways the whole time, you know.
Now, with that, it was what I thought was so interesting is you had the one simulator that you're talking about in Taylor's booth there, and that it was, you know, you've got the computer screens right there, and you're sitting in it, you know, it's just right there. I think it's much like most of the iRacing simulators that we saw, especially when iRacing became super popular and a
Right.
lot like when we couldn't physically race, a lot of like those simulator rigs. Whereas the one in Daytona One's booth, it was a full built out car. It was
Right.
like going to a flight simulator where the whole thing moves. So here's a full size late model on whatever hydraulics, so that you know, like you literally are moving. The whole
Right.
car was moving, not just the seat. So two totally different setups, but so incredibly cool.
I wished I had a chance to go over and do that one, but I wished I had known that either one of them were going to bring them. I mean, I think it's just another part of racing. I mean, you know, and I mean, I think if you love racing, it makes you a racer, and so you don't have to go out there and spend you know, like $1 million to go to prove yourself that you're a racer. But and because I mean, I think if you're all forms of racing are racing, and so um, I think that um, we've you and I've talked about it. Like we really want to do a whole lot more from that side too, you know, from the digital side of things, and you know, start and go on up. So hopefully we can, you know, fill in some gaps of some of the things we're talking about as far as you know, with some coverage of some different types of racing, you know, like the small car racing, go-karts, things like that, all up to the late models and street stocks, and always try to mix in some asphalt people, you know, but they
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll see how that goes.
Great. Yeah. And I've got a couple of comments here. I see Scott's here. He says, hi from Chile, California. I am ready to hear about the car show. So that's cool. And Steve Brendel is here from ATC Bolts. He says, best show for dirt racers, hands down.
Yeah,
And
Steve has a great setup. I mean, you talk about, I mean, Steve's products are awesome. And it's one of those things that it's really cool that Steve, it's a perfect example of like finding a like a need in the industry and then doing a really good job with it. I mean, you know, like you think like bolts are simple. It's not. When you put, you know, and it's when you, and fasteners, you know, everything that you need, when you put a car together or put anything together, I mean, it's no different than here. I've got for my display there, I had everything. I had my grid walls. I had the hooks. I had the stands, that the roll around things. I could not find those stupid little clips. I must have done something with them to put them together. So I had to come home and then found them on a shelf here, you know. But you know, it's like how frustrating that can be. But when I would go by Steve's booth, it was like he has all these amazing looking cases with everything organized, and that would be, you know, that's I'm really glad that he's really successful doing what he's doing, because that was a big time need for this industry.
I agree, because there are a few things that are more frustrating than when you are like at 90% completion, whether it's a car or an engine, whatever, and you're just missing either a bolt or you're missing a fitting. There's just few things that are that frustrating,
Oh yeah,
because you know it's not like these are expensive parts individually, but either you have them or you can't race.
that's right. That's right. Or and you're at the racetrack and you're like, you really need, you know, this or that or whatever, and it's like, you know, and so like with him, he kind of has taken that, you know, the organization, you know, mindset out of the racer's hands. They don't have to worry about it. Now it's like, here it is, you know. So
Yeah, just go
good
get
for
the bolt
Steve.
case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got cool branding. I talked about branding a lot during this show. So
Oh,
but that was pretty cool that he's got a great brand, and it shows with his professionalism.
absolutely. And Jack is here. He says, can't wait for next year. Got some new products coming up soon.
That's
Great.
awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Well,
There's another need in the industry right there too. It's like, I mean, have you ever jacked up a car? You ever try to jack up a late model? I was never one. I was like, I don't know. I think people had pit lifts there kind of towards the end of me racing, but like I never broke down to buy one or anything or anything. So I was still, and plus I didn't really jack up my car that much. Whatever. I would, everybody else kind of this. They the first thing they do when they get in, they put their cars up on stands or their lifts or whatever, and like I don't know. I didn't have a need for it. I wasn't going to do it. I just let it sit there. But those lifts sure make it a lot easier for sure. That's why everybody's got them now.
Oh yeah.
I actually used one for the first time because I had Willie's car there on the lift, and I had to go up and down with it a couple of times in order to like I had to go down with it to put the roof number and the spoiler on it, but then up it's easier with the sides. And I had never really used one before, but that was pretty slick. It kind of made me mad that I didn't get one before. I might still be racing if I had gotten a dirt car lift a long time ago. I don't know. So.
Well, and now there's that new innovation with the dirt car lift, and it's got wheels on it, and you can spin the car around. I didn't actually see that happen, but
yeah, they did it for Chris's car because in Benji Hicks's booth, because we had wrapped the left side of it was facing out, and then he had put it up on the lifts, and they just have casters on it. They just spun it around, and we did the right side. So it was like that was pretty slick. So
yeah, that's really slick. And I see the Southern Wedge Late Model Association says, "Awesome show. We were packed out all weekend. Thank y'all." How exciting is it that we've got wedge cars again?
Yeah, how cool was it to see a wedge car?
Yes.
That was really neat. I mean, that really took me back about, I don't know, 40 years ago, I guess. I don't know. Long time ago to see like a wedge car. So that was pretty neat. So I'm going to have to go to a race, one of those wedge car races just to watch them.
So, yeah.
So,
yeah, that'll be so much fun. Really fun to I think so many of us will appreciate it because we saw it, so many years ago, and it's great to bring it back.
I think one of the big complaint about the wedge cars was you can't see around them, so, and it was like, you couldn't see if you're behind somebody, but honestly, a long time ago, 20, 25 years ago, sometime or another, I mean, I don't know if people remember or not, but like Lexan spoilers used to be the thing. Like everybody had a Lexan spoiler. You couldn't even run a solid spoiler. You had to have a Lexan spoiler. Then somehow or another, somebody ran an aluminum spoiler, and it was like they let it go or whatever, and then everybody had them. So once everybody had an aluminum spoiler, you can't see around anybody anyway. So and then now with the cars all hiked up and all that, you can't see around anybody. So everybody's used to racing that way. So you might as well just go ahead and just wedge them up.
Yeah, it's not like there's rear view mirrors in a dirt car.
I tried that once. It was like,
it's usually illegal now, but was it legal?
Yeah, it was legal then. But I mean, I don't know. Then the mirrors bounced so much you really couldn't see anything and all that. And you're just gonna. All it does is like whenever you saw something flash across your mirror, it's just like automatic. It's like you'd see something flash in your eye and you turn left. That's what it is. Turn left. So,
well, when you first started racing, there was like two-way radios too, weren't there?
Oh yeah, there's still two-way radios. People still run them. They just, I mean, they're not legal, but people still have them.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, technology is a great thing, right? I mean, you can pretty much pack this stuff in anything now. I mean, I don't know. I've heard all kinds of different things, different color receivers with different, like there's a yellow one and a red one, and then they can put two-way communication in one of them and the other one's not, but whatever. But I don't know if it really, then people have got really good with the sticks. Yeah. And so it's really like not that big. Honestly, I don't really care. I don't think anybody's going to go out there and just win a whole bunch of races because they have radios. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's a safety issue too. But if you're really good on the sticks, it's kind of like the same-ish thing. You're just telling somebody where to run. It's like the guy behind you is, because really when you're leading a race, you're the one that's the most blind. You can't see anything. You don't know what's going on behind you. You don't know if they're chasing the bottom or if they're pounding the cushion, and you're just trying to what do you do? I mean, you don't want to be an idiot and go down there and try to hit the cushion, but everybody's on the bottom, where it's rubbered up or whatever. But sometimes most times it's a lot easier when you're following somebody and you can see that. So, so that's where all the tour guys are so good with the sticks that it's almost like they just it's kind of like in the NFL and college football. NFL, the quarterbacks have the two-way, have the headset, the radio, the speakers.
Oh, okay.
Right. College football doesn't have that, so they have the signs. I don't know if you saw anything with the whole Michigan thing, stealing signs and all that stuff. Well, that doesn't even happen in the NFL because they have the headsets. So anyway, it's not like the NFL game is a lot different than the college game. It's not, whatever, just technology, just tell them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Here we got a couple more comments here. Mikey says, looked like a great show. The beauty of social media.
That's right.
Of course, Mikey's in Oregon and he wasn't able to make it this year, although he has made it to our show before.
That's right. Cool. That's right.
Yeah. So that's awesome with social media. We can share that out to the world and people can see those pictures. Yes. And Cameron is here. Okay. We got a whole lot of comment here. So he says, hey, everybody. Sorry I was unable to make the trip up there to Hickory this year. I've heard a lot of positive information about the show. Great job again to you and your team. Also, hope you guys had a blessed Christmas and wish you guys a very happy New Year. I have a very busy schedule this year. I'm so blessed with everything you guys were able to teach me and the relationships, etc. God bless you all. Thank you again. Well, of course.
See, I always miss Cameron.
It's
like one thing, I get to see Cameron once a year.
Mm-hmm.
So tell him he needs to reply to him and tell him he needs to come next year.
Well, he's watching, so we're live.
Yeah. Well, Cameron, come next year. All right.
Absolutely. And Shane's here. Howdy from snowing Nebraska. Glad to see you back on, Ben Jones. And oh yeah, we did take like the whole month of December off.
That's right.
Off of the podcast. And sorry, we have been working hard. We had another show and then we both have businesses and getting ready for the Cars show. So
it's funny. I don't know how much you talk about the other show, but I talked to some people about our other show and everybody just laughed at me. And they're like, it's because it's such a departure from because everything we do is racing all the time. So,
right.
Yeah.
Because like I have Crate Insider where I sell race car parts.
Mm-hmm.
I have the podcast. I go and record all the Race Logic Chassis School seminars. And then of course I've talked about marketing and sponsorship before. All of that's racing. So you can go and tell them the other show that we did.
No, other than me, I mean, 99% of my conversations are all racing related, and everything I do is race cars. So it's just race. So then, and it's a lot of it. Well, so I don't know. We go back into it, but we've been doing the car show for quite a few years, and we have such a great relationship with everybody at the Hickory Metro Convention Center. And so we had a conversation one day about all the people that call up to the convention center and talk about they wish there was a Christmas show. So she asked me if we'd do a Christmas show. And so I called Kate right away and I'm like, hey, you want to do a Christmas show? Because I don't know anything about it at all. Nothing. Kate's like, I want to do it. Right. Whatever. So
well,
then,
the first year I told you no. I was like, oh, hell no.
Well, anyways. Not. So then we did research on it and stuff, which was fun. And then it kind of turned into like where we, I don't know. It's like one of those. It was almost like that. If you ever watch as a man and you end up watching a show on TV with your wife that you're like, I'm only watching this because she's watching this and I want to get along with her tonight. And she's watching some chick flick or soap opera or something like that. And then you're part way in it and you're like, hey, this thing's pretty good. That's kind of the way it was for me. It was like, hey, I kind of started having a lot of fun with this deal, And so then we had this Christmas show at the beginning of December. So we packed the place out. I mean, totally different deal in the car show because we were able to promote locally, so we used radio and direct mailers and all that sort of stuff, things that you can't do with like racing because we don't really, and I think that's what we talk about with the racing show. We're always very careful with our attendance with the racing show because it's not like we want to come out and be a 100% industry show. We're not going to jury all of the attendees. We want it to be open to anybody. But we also don't want this to be a sticker collecting show either. And we don't want people that aren't going to buy these people's products. So there has to be something in between there to where we can get racers and and potential racers and people welcoming the community. So we don't want to promote locally to the area, to get them people in there, because we want to have people, it's quality over quantity for us, versus like the Christmas show was it's quantity. I mean, you're bringing all comers in, and so anyways, we did that. Then we turned right around and did the car show. So now we're good for a little while. So
yeah, I think we're showed out for just a little bit.
First a little bit. Well, it was great for me. I'll tell you, the best thing for me is it's almost, and this is what's great about the car show for me, is that every year it's like I get, even though we don't have an off season anymore, everybody has to pick where that line is now. Like, some people it might be November, some people might be December, it's like, some people might be March. I mean, I don't know, wherever their downtime is or whatever. But I think we all kind of go through a lull of focus, like, because I don't think very many people can focus 100% on something all the time. I think you can put all your effort into something for a period of time, and then you're going to have to like relax from it or whatever. And so for me, almost every year when I get to November and December, I'm always kind of burned out. I don't really know, so it's a year long of design and like, and meeting deadlines and all that sort of stuff. And then you kind of get a break. And so during that time, it's always questioning, like, man, I don't know, do I have another year in me or whatever? But like going to the car show every year, it's like, bam, it's got me all reinvigorated. Like when I left there Saturday night, I'm like, I am ready for another year of dirt rap. So that's like all I want to do. I didn't want to come home and sleep. I didn't want to come home and like watch football or anything like that. It's like I wanted to sit down and I want to start like, getting some raps out. So
yeah. And for me, I got a chance to see some new products, and I definitely, I picked up a couple of new dealership deals, and I know that there's some other exciting stuff coming down on the pipeline that isn't quite ready. It's in testing, but I will really look forward to kind of, being in the know and knowing some of the things that are coming down the pipeline, just a little bit later this year. And always trying to be on that cutting edge of whatever's newest and highest performing and all of those type of things.
Right. That's cool. The other thing about the car show that's great is just interfacing with the people that you already interface with.
Of course.
It's almost like, you're kind of just making sure that you're, there's a lot of friendships in this business, and you kind of re-recruit the people that you already deal with and make sure that we're all on the same page. And so it's not always about new customers. It's about, because an existing customer is better than a new customer.
Yeah.
Always.
You know what I think is fun? This is a kind of a side note, but how many people don't know that we're brother and sister?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
it's funny.
And then you and I don't, because we just kind of operated totally separately. You and I don't actually know who the other knows and doesn't know. So it's kind of fun. I ran into Jeremy Mayfield and say, "Oh, have you met my brother?" And he's like, "No, I don't think so." And I bring him over, and like, of course, you guys have known each other for years and years.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
but he didn't know that we were brother and sister.
You just
so it's kind of fun.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's super fun that like this past year, how most people look at like how the people come to me and like, Kate does a great job with this show, and she does. But then you look at the Christmas show and most people thought it was my show.
Yeah.
What I'm saying? So it was, which is really odd. Like, why would I be messing with a Christmas show? But anyways, but I really did enjoy
on video. I was the one on video before. That's
right.
Yeah, that's it. So let's see. We got some more comments here, and Danielle is here from Crate Insider saying, "Hey
Danielle.
guys, hey, Danielle.
Hello, Danielle."
Yep. And Cameron says, "Definitely gonna be there next year. I promise." Well, good. And he says, "I'm gonna have to come up around a little earlier and go out and grab us a bite to eat and also a couple of beers."
That's right. Yeah? He tell him, Cameron, you need to bring your purple people up here so they can, so at least then the red people over there have some competition to talk about some things. Because all that stuff gets floated around out there. Now I hear like, it's like, well, I think it kept climbing. A new Hoosier tire now I think is going to be like $500 or something like that. I don't know. It kept climbing every time I talked to somebody. It was like, so you need to come in there and balance it out with your purple friends.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause American Racer, I'm sure they did pretty well at the show.
Yeah, oh, they do. They do. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. And I'm glad to see them have some, they do a great job with Jason and, Blue Ridge Outlaws
Jason
and now the Wedge Association. And then I guess their Joe series is all going to that too, right?
Oh, I'm not sure if whether
I thought so. Wasn't it?
Crate All Stars.
Yeah,
so.
wasn't that? Aren't they going all racers?
That I don't know.
So it's good to see it's good to see a healthy balance. I like to see balance. I like to see, and I don't want to be a hypocrite with it. It's like when you go to a like a racetrack, and if there's 24 cars, I don't want to see 15 of them with dirt wrap on them. I want to see like 4 or 5 with dirt wrap, and I want to see other guys' stuff too. I mean, there's a lot of people that do a really good job, in this industry too, and I like to see their stuff, and I like to see their stuff, with my stuff and everything else. It's healthy to have competition and to have balance.
Well, and variety, and
that's right.
And I kind of stay in my lane with what I do. I don't get offended that people buy their race car parts in other places by any means, and I think that there's enough business out there for all of us.
And that's what's cool to see, like just the dirt late model chassis people that were at the show. You look at Benji Hicks with the double nickel car, and you look at Benji Cole with the train car, and then you look at Taylor Griffith with the laser, and all 3 of them have had a great deal of success.
Yeah,
with multiple drivers, and all of them sold cars, at the show, and so I think that's awesome. And it's awesome that we have a balance of and I do root for. I like to see the off guy win. You know what I'm saying? Like I would love to see I think it'd be super cool to see not one of the big ones, the big chassis builders like to see somebody win a Lucas race, World of Outlaws race, or something like that, or whatever, or the Eldora race or something like that. That would be really cool.
Yeah, with these independent with these independent guys. Yeah, for sure. And Justin says, you guys rock. So thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. Absolutely. And Blue Ridge Blue Ridge Outlaw late models. Glad to be a part again this year. We enjoyed, and it was the perfect place to release all our new partners. Oh, Newsome Raceway Parts.
Awesome. That's
Raceway
great.
Chevrolet and Chevrolet Performance. We appreciate all the hard work that goes into making it happen. This is news to me. I've been working.
I saw a photo. I saw a photo with Smoot and Andy.
Yeah.
And Tim.
Yeah. Oh, I lost you, Jimmy. Oh, there you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Might be my trashy internet. I don't know, but that's super cool. And I think that also brings up something else that's very, very, very underrated when it comes to the Cars Racing Show is the business to business that goes on.
Yes.
There is so much that happens. There is so and I'd say even with me, there are a lot of things, a lot of connections that I made and people I talk to that are going to work for what I do. And that I don't know, there's no way else that I could reproduce that anywhere else. And it's hard to put a value on some of those things. So that's very underrated.
Well, I mean, we learned this, a while ago, and that's why I think it was last year that we started it, that we do exhibitor only hours. So we start Friday, and the first couple hours of the show are just exhibitors only. I mean, sure, they could come in and just mess around with their booths, but the whole point is once the show really starts and is open to the public, it is really, really hard to get out of your booth.
That's right.
So with this, by having our exhibitor only hours, then the exhibitors are there and all talking amongst each other and getting these deals done. And there's, I saw Jesse Lowe's post. Jesse Lowe was the champion for American Crate All-Stars. His car was in that booth. And he put out a post Saturday morning or Friday night talking about all the new partnerships that he gained from having his car in the show. Oh,
Chris Cheek will tell you
about that.
It's cool to see Chris back racing. Usually when we lose somebody, we don't get them back, but that's really cool that Chris is jumping back into it. So, so that was a really neat deal. And I would encourage, that's also somebody that if you're planning on putting a new car together or something like that, then, we're reach out to us. Reach out to us, let let us know that you are like, you might want to get connected with one of these. Everybody, like including me, is always looking for people to have a car and bring a car to put it in our booth, and it's one of those things that's always, it's a gift that keeps on giving. Chris made out like a bandit. I know Jesse did too. That they were able to speed up their programs really, really fast. So let us know, because I mean, us, we want, the more cars we can fit in there, the better. Because they're the attraction. So
yeah, no, I completely agree. Obviously, and I've just seen those deals work out so well. But you didn't have to have a car in the booth. I don't always like to encourage, like, hey, come and you're gonna get a bunch of free stuff or sponsorship. But you talk to the right people and you get the right. You just get that right relationship. That's the most important part, is a relationship.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, and get to meet people.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not the free stuff or getting money. It could just be the connection. Having that person. For instance, I've been an E3 batteries dealer for a year, but I didn't really feel like a really close relationship, and that's changed now after this show. So now, as I have questions about lithium batteries, I've got my go-to guy that I can, shoot a text message over to, and I'm going to have answers, and that's going to help me. That's going to help me just to be able to communicate with my customers and answer their questions.
Now, did you solidify some of that through the Hickory nightlife?
Absolutely.
There, you see, yes. And that's also like, Hickory nightlife's underrated, man. Underrated.
Yeah.
So, like a lot of stuff that goes on Friday night and Saturday night. It ain't a dead place, man. I'm telling you.
No, Friday night, Saturday night people are taking off because the show's Friday and Saturday. So Saturday after the show, people take off. But Thursday night after setup, actually, there was a big group of us, about 10 of us went to dinner, and hung out and talked. And then Friday night, there were some shots involved.
There you go. That's cool. It's all good. It's kind of like our golf course. That's where it gets done.
Yeah. Right? Well, that's where the relationships form. And that's
right.
And you have a good time, and but of course, what happens in Hickory stays in Hickory.
That's right. Yeah.
It's the Vegas of the East Coast, right?
Well, that's why I have to be really good when I'm here, because I live in Hickory, so it just stays in Hickory. I would want it to leave Hickory and go somewhere.
That's true. I live an hour away, so
right. You're lucky.
Yeah, it's lucky. Totally different deal there. And Mikey says, in the wrap business, what changes in the industry have been the most difficult to adapt to in the last year or so?
Well, I think I know where this is coming. I've had this discussion before. Luckily, I don't have to worry about it, because I already have a solution to the problem that has been created with these composite panels. But that's a big deal. In fact, I ran into somebody who was an acquaintance. It was that guy that came to the booth from 3M, and he was an acquaintance of somebody with 5-star, and the 5-star guy was telling him how he was kind of throwing off on the wrap people. He was saying, the way I understood it was that they're taking a lot of flack because the wraps won't stick to their plastic panels, and so they're like, why do they have to take the, they're making the panel, why do they have to work, catch all the hell for it when it's not their problem? But it really is their problem, because, and I told him, I was like, the one thing they could have done is reached out to somebody, and anybody reputable in this industry would have told them, because they know that, anybody reputable knows what like where we're at with materials. You're at with a standard calendar, Aerogress, semi-permanent adhesive, and then also, that you would have to have a high tack adhesive. Now, the problem with it is the fact that you can solve that problem. Like, it's not, and I'll just tell everybody, you can solve the problem with the plastic panels, but you have to buy a high tack adhesive. Now, that would be like, if you're buying our line, it would be like their 8,000. Let's see, who else would it be? I know that I think the 3M is HTA. All of them have a high tack adhesive. The problem with it is a high tack adhesive vinyl is expensive, like really expensive. Like 3 times the cost expensive. And so now this is where you run into a problem, where you're a wrap guy and somebody calls you up and they're like, hey, I want to get, and this is as a wrap guy, even if you even know. Half the time, I don't even know what people are running for panels. So then you send them a standard wrap, and then find out they have plastic panels, and there might be a problem, or whatever like that. I could see that happening. But if you did know, and you say, okay, that means that now I have to switch. Now I have to stock another type of material. I have to stock a high-tack adhesive, and then I also have to switch my printers out or whatever you're going to do, and different sizes or whatever it may be. But now you're going to have to charge more money. So now in this wrap game, which is kind of a cutthroat business anyway, you're going to have to raise your price over somebody else. And so even though you have a better product, it's like, is that going to be successful for you? Or do people value that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so my experience, they don't. They're a lot of them are going to go, and they're price driven, and they're going to go, well, this guy here is like, he's going to charge me $400 a wrap because he's got a printer in grandma's kitchen. But you're like, $700 a wrap. And even though that, your stuff is, better quality, and your stuff fits, and it's more tailored, and, all these things, but that doesn't matter to people as much. So that'll still be going on in the industry. Now, luckily, I have a great material that sticks to the plastic that's not expensive. So so I kind of get to sit back and watch all this play out, and I don't have to worry about it. But so yes, dirt wrap stuff sticks to pretty much everything. So but tell you, don't do that whole thing that MD3 says to do. Don't like sand your panel and paint it with primer 45. That's stupid. That's beyond stupid. Just make sure your guy, uses a high-tack adhesive, and it'll work. But still want to clean it with like a rubbing alcohol or whatever. But that's the biggest change in the wrap game is the composite panels.
Now, with using the high-tack adhesive, do you also run into a situation where, like, like a wrap, you can kind of pull it back,
Oh, that's sticky.
But then like the minute it touches, it's like you're committed.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like it's stickier. It's harder to put on. You got to really know what you're doing. So a lot of people would probably have a problem with that and be upset and be like, "Man, this stuff is so sticky." But that's what you kind of got to do. So,
can you use like a spray of some kind? I mean, back in the day, you used, I don't know if it was like Dawn dishwashing soap and some water.
Oh, definitely not that. I mean, everything is dry now. Like, you don't even use that on aluminum, at all, because it's got the little air channels in the back. So, so we've all graduated from that, quite a while ago. But so what MD3 has sent a video out. The last one I saw was where they're telling everybody to sand their panel or something like that, or they're cleaning it with lacquer thinner, and then there's what's called primer 45. 3M made this stuff like 20 years ago, and it's in a can, and they're wanting you to paint, especially the edges, the leading edges and all that sort of stuff, with primer 45. And then how that works is it's almost like an adhesive promoter. And so when you put your panel on, once it hits the primer 45, it kind of makes it high tack, but you really need to go hit it with a heat gun afterwards. And you really need to get it up to temperature. It's like 230 degrees that you need to get all those edges leading up to. But basically what you're wanting to do is your wrap then will stick to the primer. The primer then sticks to the substrate, but your wrap isn't going to stick to the substrate.
So why don't they just prime them at the factory?
Ask them, because I don't know. Maybe they thought they were going to make a bunch of panels that people weren't going to put graphics on. I don't know. The way it sounds is they just kind of think it's everybody else's problem, not theirs. So I don't know. If I was in their shoes, I probably would have thought about that before I released the product and said that, I mean, it's no different than if they made body panels out of the polypropylene that the nose pieces are made out of. I mean, you're totally changing the game then, so, but then you have to balance it out. It's like, okay, I might be able to save some money on my panel because it doesn't bend up like the aluminum, but now I'm spending more money for quite a while. I wanted to make sure that everything was going to be okay with that. So, those guys are really good to give great feedback with that stuff. And so, and then also have, we have our adhesive formulated for the plastic that's used on like the MD3 stuff, because it's also like a lot of these cars, they're using the plastic for the filler panels too. And so, which is a huge problem in a car. So the three bad areas on a race car, I don't care what race car it is the leading edge of the right rear quarter panel, the leading edge of the right door, and then the front of the filler panel. Those catch hell because they just basically get shot with dirt all the time, like almost sandblasted. So if anything gets underneath there, then all of a sudden it'll just propagate and keep going. So you have to have something that sticks there. But like you said, you don't want it too sticky to where people have a problem putting it on. So it's a trade-off thing there, so.
It's a tough balance. And BJ says, hey. So
hey
thanks,
BJ.
BJ, for being here. And I see Cameron's here, says, I remember the words that came out of my mouth the first year you guys had that show. And I told you I felt like with everybody that I talked to at the show that day, it was the best show for the local racer. There was a lot more communication between racers and suppliers, a lot more attention to the driver racer. And I feel like right now it is the #1 event that you can go there with a goal to buy some things that you saved money for and walk out of the show with it, instead of then it kind of cut off. And he says, I got some pretty big news this year. I'm going to be doing tires for Scott Bloomquist. Awesome. And also doing some things for Lane Whittington, Louisiana, which will be crew chief by Danny Lasowski. I'll be going to start with Harold Hawley and Hayden Cowan driving for Joey Coulter Racing. So this year is going to be a massively busy with tires. But no matter what, I know who my friends are, and I appreciate them all.
Well, he's got some great people he's dealing with there. Like Harold Hawley's one of my people. I love Harold. I love talking to Harold all the time. So he's pretty close to me down here in Troutman. So there's no better people in this business than the Coulters. And so when I'll stop in quite a bit because Tina works in Statesville, and then my stepkids go to Troutman school, so I go by there periodically, and me and Harold always talk about stuff. So
yeah, I know you were there a few weeks ago. Yeah. So that's cool.
He's a smart guy. Smart guy.
Cool. And Mikey says, very well said, Kate. Glad to be in the industry with you guys. Well, thank you. And Cameron says, a lot more here. Also, August 3rd makes 22 years to my accident this year, and I will be at Cedar Lake Speedway with Scott Bloomquist. Thank you again for everything and everybody that has prayed for me. That has helped me, and that has helped me to get where I am now. And the both of you gave me the strength to do better and gave me more positivity to try to succeed in anything that I do. You are a great part of my life, and I look up to massively. Thank you. My goodness.
Cameron's a great person. I'm super proud of Cameron for his ambition to do what he's done and the work of the people. And I'm glad to see him working with Scott. The dirt late model racing is better with Scott Bloomquist in it. I don't care if you like him or not like him or whatever, but I think that guy still got something in him, And
he's an innovator. Yeah.
I mean, you have to respect. I mean, it's like, to me, it's like when it comes to the hierarchy of evaluating a person, especially in racing, to me, respect is way higher than liking them. There are a lot of people I don't like that I really respect.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. We had this conversation a lot this weekend, in how racing is healthy when you have racers in racing, people that dedicate their lives to the sport, and they give and take as much, and they leave it in a better place or as good a place as what they saw it, So so there's a lot of people like you look at, like, two people I think of are like Mark Richards and Barry Wright. Both those guys, I mean, you might like those guys, might not like those guys, but those guys have dedicated their lives to this sport, and and they'll probably both die at a racetrack.
Yeah.
And so, but that's the spirit of racing. That's what it's got us here. What we don't want is people who are coming in for the money, and they're gonna take from the sport, and then when they've taken all they can take and they burned it down, and then they move on to something else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we've seen that in other forms of racing. And I just don't want to see it in dirt racing, because dirt, like, it has started from like the top. It's like, the NASCAR stuff down to the asphalt short track stuff. And now the popular thing is the dirt stuff. And so I would like to see, whereas like dirt racing is healthiest, all racing is healthiest when you have a healthy top and a healthy bottom.
Yeah.
And right now the top is great. I mean, I don't care if you go to these races or if you watch them on TV. It's hard pressed to think that the racing has ever been better. I mean, It's been a long time since I've watched a race on Flow at any racetrack, or I've been to a race that you're like, holy shit, these guys are good. Like really, really good, right? What I fear though is that the top is so healthy, but the bottom keeps raising. And so like right now, it's like to run a crate car effectively is almost more expensive and more involved than it was to run like a regional super late model, like 6 or 7, 8 years ago. And I attribute a lot of the raise in the cost of these things to people who have gotten in the sport that might not be in it to win it. Like, they're not, like, when you look at like Barry Wright's dream was to build race cars. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Barry built race cars to try to make enough money so that he could go do something else. You know what I'm saying? And so for that, you have to respect the shit out of Barry. I look up to Barry like crazy. I mean, he's like, one of the greatest people ever in this sport. And not because he's a great guy as much as how much he's dedicated his life to that. Our dad is the same way. Dad was, like, it was never about how much he could charge. It was about what was the right thing to charge, or what was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so our stuff has kind of gotten out of control. And the analogy that I've used a lot this weekend is sometimes I feel like in this dirt late model world, I'm strapped in the back of a jetliner, and I'm thinking that we're going in the right direction. And then I get up and I open up the cockpit and I realize there's no pilot. I mean, where's it going? So is it really healthy to have a $150,000 race car? I don't know. I don't think so. But
not when you're going to race for $800.
Not when you're going to race for $800. And so, and there's a lot of things with that, but it's not so much. I mean, people that are going to love. What you don't want to see is people that love to race, that are willing to dedicate their life to racing, but they just can't do it. You know, they just can't do it. And so I think what you end up seeing is that there's a lot of people that will complain, but then there'll be some people that'll just disappear. That'll just be, they've just had enough, and they've spent out, and they move on. And that's not good for racing. I don't think it's going to be good for dirt racing if we end up with 30 super late model teams.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, so I hope, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. It's not one person can fix this. But
no, but I think there's some opportunity with the 525.
Oh, I mean, all of them. I mean, the spec motor was awesome. All you had to do is police the damn thing. There's lots of spec motor type stuff out there. You could do the GM route if you want to, but you could also do a spec route. There's lots of different, there's a lot of ways to affordably make 600 horsepower.
Yeah.
600 horsepower. And then also too, like I say this all the time too, if you want better racing, you need to have a greater ratio of power to grip. The lower the ratio is, the worse the racing is. So that means, like, if you have 600 horsepower, you got to do something with grip. Got to take some tire away. You just can't. But when you put, like, look at the Cup cars, the worst thing they ever did to those things was give them more grip and take motor away. Now it's just like, you can't pass anybody.
That's not a race.
I mean, it's not. Then you got to wreck somebody to get around them. And that sucks. I mean, if you want to have a demolition derby, that's one thing, but that's a different sport,
Yeah.
So,
well, but back to the show. I mean, that's one of the fun things is to talk about all these things, with lots of different people and get lots of different opinions.
oh yeah, and sometimes there's some, we're all bench racers, and we can, we all have solutions to problems, I guess. But sometimes you talk to the right person and a solution gets implemented, and you're like, wow, okay, we actually do feel like you made a difference.
Yeah.
I feel like if we all make a positive difference, then we can steer this thing, in the right direction. So.
Well, and this is cool. Blue Ridge Outlaw Late Model says, yes, Joseph Rush is on the American Racer tires with his series for 2024.
And that's awesome. I mean, how's
Yeah.
that not awesome? I mean, that's super cool. It's an affordable tire, a lot more affordable than their competition. And so an affordable tire for an affordable series. And so there's a lot of other series that are on the other stuff. So I'm glad to see that it's balanced. There's a balance there.
Well, and what's nice too is that those regions are close enough that racers, I mean, I don't know what the rules differences are, but tires, of course, is what separated a lot of these different series about who you can run with. It was tires and fuel for a while, but I think about everybody's on E85 these days, at least for crates. For crates, anyway.
But like the crate stuff, I mean, to me, I mean, this is just, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is me, my personal racing hat on, that like the best tire for crates was the Goodyear, because it really wasn't any good, but everybody was on the same tire. So what's it matter? But the cool thing about them, they didn't have a lot of grip, and exactly what you want. Like, I swear to God, I still say that on the Goodyear, that G45, you could be too free getting in the corner with the Goodyear. I swear to God, I don't know. I don't think you can get a crate car free enough, getting in the corner with any of the softer stuff. So once we went to the other stuff, the 200s and fast track, or the 1350s, you're so bolted down that, you're going to have to bend it anyway, getting in the corner. So it's like, it was a lot more fun, I think, and the difference is that when you're driving down the straightaway and you're getting in the corner and this thing's wanting to turn around on you you're not even on the brake. You haven't turned the steering wheel. You haven't done anything. Now you know that you're too free getting in the corner. And now at that point in time, you are starting to separate the drivers and the non-drivers. Yeah. But now when you're too tight and everybody's too tight and you got tons of grip, brake and turn it sideways, stand on the gas and go forward. You know what I mean? And so then it's like, okay, that's all right. I guess everybody has to ask Jack here a little bit, but it's going to take 30, 40 laps for this thing to blow off enough to where we can actually start racing. Right. So at what point in time can we actually start racing? And that's when you actually have to let off the throttle and you have to respect your car, so that's why, like in dirt racing, especially to me, I have very little interest in watching any of the super late model races that are not 100 laps. I mean, oh yeah. I mean 50 laps, you can run the shit out of your stuff for 50 laps. But like from 50 to 100 is when racetracks start getting trashy, and that's if they don't rubber up. If you can get a track that can not rubber up, and you go from, when you start getting to lap 70 and 80 and this thing is slick and everything else, now you get to see some, now that's when the excitement happens to me.
Yeah. A really great track for that is the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Motor Speedway, PPMS. You and I have been there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was pretty crazy. That was when I got to watch that was really impressive. Josh Richards set fast time around the top there. That was like, I don't know if I've ever seen a faster lap than like ever. Like, it was crazy how you can be wide open. I don't know. I don't go to that many of them big races. I remember watching Jonathan at Eldora in 2013. And I don't think I've ever seen a car ever as fast as that. And I think they're a little faster now, but like to be all the way up against the fence, wide open, all the way around there. It's one thing to see it on TV, but another thing to see it in person. And as a driver, and you're like, man, can I do that? I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah. I went to Eldora in 2012, and so I wasn't comfortable enough to go up there. I had a really good car from the middle down, but I wasn't going to go up there. That was too treacherous for me. So
yeah. Well, hey,
and that's something to talk about. I mean, how many people we talk about this weekend too? It's like, how many racers ever talk about the fact that maybe they just aren't that good, or that maybe they weren't that good then. Everybody complain about we've heard every complaint in the book about you don't have enough motor, or you're not car, or your shocks, or all these things, blah 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 blah. But then it's like, whoever says,
honestly, I just don't have the guts to go up there.
Yeah, I kind of pussed out. I don't know, so I don't know. I just anyways, I digress.
No worries. And let's see, Blue Ridge Late Models. We actually had a business call from just seeing the Southern Wedge Late Model Association car on social media this weekend from your lives, and everyone posting pics, joining as partners for the new deal. That wouldn't have happened without the show.
That's awesome. That's what it's all about. Networking.
Yeah.
And
he says, without the show, it wouldn't have ever happened. So we thank you for that. Awesome.
We thank those guys for always being great supporters. And I really hope that Spud heeds what I told him. So I was pretty confident about that. I don't want to talk about it over the podcast, but if it ever happens, I'm going to take credit for it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll let us know. You keep it score. And Neil says, so all wraps aren't the same. They're, I would say that they're just as much the same as aren't all seatbelts the same?
That's right.
I'm just teasing. So anybody who maybe might be just listening, I'm just giving Neil a little bit of hell. He's from Hooker Harness, and I think he's giving Jimmy a little bit of help, or maybe getting the explanation. So all wraps aren't the same.
Well, I did have that question at one time where somebody came to me and said, "You have one of them wrap machines, right, where you just push a button and a wrap spits out?" That was awesome. But I do think that this is all regurgitation of conversations we had this weekend. There are I can't not count how many times I've ever heard the thing where it's like somebody has bought a printer, but they don't know how to design. So would I design a wrap for them so they could print it out or whatever, because they wanted to be in the wrap business, but they don't design. So that's it's probably something that's like imperative to what you do. So but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, and Terry's here watching from Princeton, West Virginia. Thank you. Oh, here we go. And Speed U, awesome show. We met a lot of awesome youth racers and look forward to coming back next year. Speed U is the simulator in Taylor Griffith's booth.
Well, that was freaking awesome. It was the whole setup and all that stuff. And we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking because we want to expand on this whole deal. And we might actually, I don't know, we can just hash it out in public. I don't know. I think it'd be really cool to have like we put some money up and some trophies and stuff like that. And maybe have a competition with some things and stuff like that. So I think that's one thing we talk about the show and go into that one thing that you and I talked about is that moving forward next year, it's like we do feel like everything is pretty smooth, but like we really want to focus on making it more of an event.
Yes.
We want to make an event out of it. Now, it'd be great if we had like a big enough convention center where we could put like a go-kart track inside of there or whatever, and we could like, hammer on each other inside the, but that's not going to happen. But but we can do some other things that would get everybody involved and get everybody excited and not just the racers. We can get the crew guys involved. They need some love too. So because everybody needs to learn more. It's a whole now that our show is all about the fact that it's one thing for everybody to get the same equipment. It's another thing. What do you do with that? How can we help you? How can us as a show be a hub for you as a racer to help your program take it to the next level so that you can figure out how you can get the most out of your equipment? And we're going to really make sure that will happen a lot more this year.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize too, that the planning for the next show pretty much happens like while we're tearing down the last show.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's and that's probably the thing maybe that gets overlooked the most by everybody is that this is not just you just don't just open up the doors and have a show. We've already committed to the convention center next year. So we're already got our dates for next year. We're already paid our money. And so like we're full blown committed without having commitments from anybody else. So it's almost like we have to put all this together, over the course of a whole year, because it takes a whole year to put this together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when we first did it, we did it in just a few months, because being 2020, although there was a little extra time in 2020.
But it's also too that this will be year 5 of the reboot.
Yeah.
And it's no different than a race car. It is a hell of a lot easier to get the first 90% out of your race car. It's a hell of a lot harder and more expensive to get the last 10%.
Mm-hmm. We
are now in the fact that I think at the beginning it was like nobody had a show like this, and it was like, pretty much anything was going to be great. Now we have to kind of keep outdoing ourselves. This is the hardest part in the rap business too, because I can tell you that like you have to outdo yourself. You're competing with yourself all the time when you have the customers. Like, I mean, I don't think that whether or not it's like you take some of my customers like Davenport or Bronson or any of those guys like that, that would be like, I don't think their goal is to say, I really hope that my 2017 car is the best looking car I ever had.
Right.
They want every car to be better looking than the one before. And it's like, it's hard to do because I do my best I don't hold anything back each year. So I'll probably will run out of ideas eventually. So, but I was proud of my cars that I had at the show this year. So
yeah, some great looking cars. But
you.
The good thing is, I mean, just follow fashion. Once you're out of ideas, all you do is go back 20 years, and then then you call it retro.
Yeah.
And then it's cool again, right?
That's right. Well, yeah.
Because apparently, how we dressed in the 90s, apparently that's cool again.
Oh, okay. Really?
I mean,
I don't know. I'm kind of out of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna.
I don't think I ever changed. I think I still stay the same. It's probably the same clothes, right?
I wasn't really digging the whole skinny jeans thing. I was like,
I didn't get into that. I was boot cut a long time ago, and then I'm still boot cut. So if boot cut's back popular again, then it's like that's just cool. I just skipped over their bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because apparently people have continued to wear boots all these years. So
although when I was in high school, I did pin my jeans. Did you do that?
So did I.
I don't know. I don't know why I did that.
Because it was the cool thing to do.
I had a rat tail.
Yeah. We didn't have skinny jeans, so we had to make our own skinny jeans. And for some reason that was cool. Yeah. You folded them over and then you put the safety pin in them. We're so dating ourselves, Jimmy.
Well, it's so funny. It's talking about aging yourselves. You know Rhonda Beck?
Yeah.
So Rhonda's awesome. So Rhonda comes talks to me and she's like, and she had a photo because I was talking to Marion Limbaugh from Carolina Clash. So I go back to 2007 with Mario. I call him Mario. So, and she had some pictures on her phone and she was flipping through them. It was me and Marion, and she had JD in there, and she had Tim. I remember seeing Tim Allen. And it was like everybody looked like kids, right? Yeah. All of us looked like kids. So like 16 years ago. And they showed a picture of Spud. Spud looks the same. Absolutely the same. So Spud hasn't changed a bit in 16 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Maybe you and I will reach that point at some point.
Oh, I'm not. Look at me. I'm like, I mean, the good thing about once you go gray, you can't really go any more gray. I guess I could lose my hair or whatever, but like I'm not going to get any grayer.
I'm not, because I get my hair done at a 1/4 inch at a time.
But you're a chick. That's the way it goes. I think Gabby's my daughter. I think she's talking about like how unfair it is. It's like, well, she's 22 years old, so she can still talk about how things are unfair, right? When you get to be our age, it's like you realize that's just the way it is, right? But it was like
we adapt.
It was like something like, I don't know, it was probably some TikTok thing or something, but it was a couple, and it was a guy and a woman, and they were both silver hair, right? And every one of the comments for the dude was like how he's a silver fox, and he's like, he's so distinguished looking, blah, blah, blah. The woman was like, why'd you let yourself go? Like, you look terrible. you should dye that, all that sort of stuff. So it's like, certainly, I guess it's unfair, but like,
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. All right. And Cash is here. He says, thanks for putting on such a great event. Looking forward to next year.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cash is doing some interesting stuff. I'll see Cash this coming weekend at the Race Logic Chassis School. And we're going to talk about, he's doing some driver development stuff that is really interesting. So we'll have to have a little bit of a conversation and maybe, hey, I'm kind of previewing the conversation here, but yeah, Cash is a great guy. I've known him for a long time.
Right.
Really cool. Does a lot of great stuff. Tori's here from CrateInsider.
Hey, Tori.
Yeah. Our podcast producer for sure. I see Chris is here. He says, been using all stacked panels on our late model for the last 3 years on my car and have not had an issue with any peeling or lifting of the wrap. Just make sure that it's clean and dry.
Well,
good.
To Chris, the stacked panels are better than the MD3 panels when it comes to a standard calendared film. So that's good. I'm glad that he hasn't had any issues.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Neil says, exactly. Thanks, MC Rapper.
MC Rapper.
Now, Alex is here too. Alex Hendren. He says, that's why I love the 525. Puts the driver back in the seat, especially with a slightly harder tire like the American Racer Pro 3 option. The gummy bear tires that are out these days are foolproof. If you can hold the wheel straight and have the car free enough, you can win. The Blue Ridge Outlaws have a great rule package, and I'm looking forward to a great season with them.
Well, he just pretty much agreed with everything that I said, which is cool. And I agree with the crate thing. The crate thing was awesome for me when I got into the crate thing because it was I never had to worry about motor. I just turned it on and went and raced. I didn't have to worry about, that expense all the time, So because you kind of have three major expenses. Well, I guess more. But you have your motor. Now you have your shocks. That's a whole nother situation. And then you have, which is really cool because your shocks and your spring deal, like where Smoot is coming in and taking care of some of that to where now you don't have to worry about that. Like who wants to put, I went to somebody's shop, a couple of years ago and they had like 400 springs. 400 springs. I'm not making that up because it's different sizes, different heights, obviously different rates. And then it's the combination of those that it's limitless to when you are trying to create a rate profile, you can have, it's not just let's see, I'm going to do on the screen. I'm like opposite, but you can have a linear profile. You can have a progressive profile. You can have a digressive profile, and you can get anywhere in between. And so it's limitless to what you can achieve, but it's just going to cost you a lot of money. And so to me, I think it's ridiculous for like a crate guy to have to do that, or any budget class to be able to have to do that. That a guy that what's cool about Smoot is, and about both the Blue Ridge Outlaws and the Wedge cars are the same thing. It's the closest thing that we have that I've seen for like a regular guy that has a job to be able to go enjoy racing. You can still have a car that might not be the newest car. I mean, who has the money to go buy a brand new car every year? Who has the money to go buy brand new shocks? And I mean, some of the numbers I've heard here lately about what a set of shocks cost is like, crazy numbers, $10,000 plus, like got to mortgage your house, buy a set of shocks. But, anyways, it's cool to see that we still have that type of stuff going on there. So I think everybody who runs, like what Alex was saying, everybody who runs for Smoot and it's really, and so like Joe's series too. I mean, really, if you look at all the series, if you look at Marion's series, Carolina Clash, you look at Jim's series, Steel Block Bandits, and then you look at Joe's series, American Crate All Stars, they're all different to where it all like Joe's series as a crate deal, certainly it's probably costs more money to run that than like say Smoot's deals, but they're racing for a lot more money too, like quite a bit more. You know what I'm saying? And so Jim's series gets to run for a lot of money for considering for and try to keep it in that region and so there's kind of we're still lucky to have a little bit of everything for guys, this area. That what we don't want to have to see is that you don't want to have a Lucas, you don't have to have a Lucas Oil level late model to go run a local show. That wouldn't be
right.
So,
yeah, you don't want that.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, especially when there's still a whole bunch of 2010 GRTs out there that are still really good race cars that, it's a shame that, that they wouldn't get to, somebody wouldn't enjoy racing them.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I see Michael's got a comment. He says, I have a full motion late model simulator. Would love to bring it out next year.
Well, let's screenshot that or something. We'll get with Michael and we might make that happen. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of excitement. Back to talking about Jason Smoot. I don't know if you know this, Jimmy, but he actually announced the existence of the wedge cars coming out. He announced it on this podcast.
Oh, did he?
Yep.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that was right before I had you on and you and I started co-hosting together.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll probably have a guest on next week, and yeah, we don't know who yet, but we'll get there.
Cool. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. So cool. But yeah, we're right. We're just past an hour here. Any final thoughts on the Cars Racing Show?
I'm actually pumped up and excited about next year's show. I really am. I feel like that. I feel like we can just continue to build on the show, and also too. I mean, obviously, you hope that weather is going to cooperate, but the other thing that's going to cooperate is that the construction at the convention center. That's been going on. Challenge. That's been going on for this year and the beginning of, and they just started it right before the show last year, and so that's made kind of parking a nightmare. I would say a nightmare. It's a challenge. Let me put it challenge.
It's challenging.
Parking is challenging. The move in, move out was challenging, but I have to, commend all of the exhibitors because I didn't hear one complaint at all about moving in, moving out. And they made it happen. But then they're going to have that new side where the what they call the Catawba room is totally going to be remodeled, and it's really pretty. So they're going to have all this stuff done in June, and so they're actually remodeling the hallway. So all that stuff's going to be different when everybody comes back, and it's going to look brand new. And so it's going to feel. I always thought our show felt high end, but it's going to feel even grander next time. But one thing we're working on right now is to put the elements in place to be able to get some banquets for some of the series and the racetracks there, for this to be a central location, what wouldn't be better than to have your banquet at the show. So your racers want to come anyway. You can have, and we promise it will be financially advantageous to the series for them to do that. And so with the size of everything, we'll be able to have a few different ones in there, and which will help bring they'll bring the right racers there. They have rules meetings, all stuff. We want this to be the central location for racing in our region here, and we think we can just continue to do things that are going to make that happen.
Yeah, like you said about it being financially advantageous, it's basically a form of sponsorship that we do for the series that want to have their banquets at our show.
Everybody wins there. Everybody wins. And so we really look at the racetracks and the series as our partners in these shows. And so they help us promote, they help us with credibility. And so we'll definitely reaching out to all of them, in the next, we'll have a meeting here with everybody at the convention center here within the next 2 weeks. And we'll be able to lay a lot of that groundwork and be able to see if we can get those things solidified.
Absolutely. And I see one more comment, and then we can wrap things up. And
okay.
And Alex says, the car show is a great resource for talking with current or potential sponsors, made great new deals, and preserved current deals with pioneers of the racing community. Such an amazing event. Thank you both for everything. Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
And who's not proud of Alex?
Yeah.
I mean, what he's done is not easy. And I'm not
No.
saying that because I love the kid. I've been around him for, since he was little. He always reminded me of that kid in one of them Disney movies. He had the glasses, and he's like, did you ever see the video with him and Gabby in the same video?
No.
Oh man. So it was like, I posted it on my Facebook page where I was running through, I was cleaning up a computer to junk a hard drive or something like that. And I found these old GoPro videos. And so what's funny is how your perspective changes as you get older. That my GoPro videos, we were at Lawndale. And so it was, and so I put the GoPro on and I didn't have like a remote. I don't know. It was the first, remember you and Dad got me the GoPro because they were right next to us at PRI. Remember in Orlando?
Gosh,
Like it was my booth, and then they had a 20 by 20. That was GoPro had a 20 by 20.
Yeah.
Like it was like a big deal for them. They had a van and they were selling out of their van. That was like the regular dudes, and then they end up blowing up, kind of thing. But anyways, you had to push the button. So I pushed the button and then everything. So anyways, here I am, and I'm looking through because I'm like, I think I had the heat race and the feature, and it was cool because fortunately I won both of them. So it was really neat. Maybe that's why I kept it. I didn't keep the ones that weren't good. But what was cool was Gabby comes up and brings me my helmet, and it's like, holy crap. And Gabby's like, like 9, whatever. And so then I always park next to Steve. And so Steve's next to me. And so Alex then comes through the camera with Steve's helmet. And so it's both kids are right there in the same. And so what I said on my Facebook page was that the things that I thought were important back then, which was being like watching the race, on the track, ends up being not the most important thing later in life because I could care less about that stuff now. But what I cared about is seeing like the kids, know what I mean? And so that's what's cool of how being able to see those things. And so Alex was like, like this tall and quiet and all that stuff. But now to see him grow up to be, and I mean, it's still like, how many laps has Alex raced? Like 500 laps in his life, and he's already won races and, big races. And so that's not easy to do. So,
well, and the competition in this part of the country.
That's what I'm saying. It's hard to win races. I don't care where you're at. It's hard to win races anywhere. And I don't think can't take that away from anybody that wins races. But especially down here, that when everybody's good, and especially when you get into some sort of like a crate series, on a tire rule, it's one thing that if you were, an open motor, open tires, and you can show up at a racetrack, and this stuff happened back in like the 80s, 70s and 80s and stuff, where, these guys would show up at a racetrack and it'd be like taking a gun to a knife fight, I mean, seriously, some of them guys were just like, they just cleaned everybody up because when they showed up with 300 more horsepower and they had tires that nobody else had and all that sort of stuff. But when you're on a spec series, spec motor, spec tire, that's hard to do. So anybody who does well, any racer has my respect, but like to be able to do that, like with like an Alex that just starting, I relate to Alex because I did the same thing as him. I started in the late model. I didn't race a 4-cylinder. I only did it because it was the cheapest way for me to go. Dad had an old late model that, and that we had, whatever.
That was Alex's situation.
Alex, same thing. Yeah, it was just, it's so much cheaper to go that route than it was anything else. And so you're jumping in and racing against guys that are, have a lot of experience. So I can't wait to see what Alex is going to do this year.
Absolutely.
Proud of that kid. Proud of him.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, and Alex says I haven't even seen that, so send it to me.
It's I think it's tell him to go to my Facebook page because I post like once a year on my Facebook page, so it has to be near the top or something. It's maybe one of the only videos, but it's right at the beginning where we're coming out on the car, and it's like, and here both of them are in there. Gabby's got her glasses, and she's like, it's great. It's so fun.
Check it out. And then we got a couple more comments here. Hardy says it was a great show. Glad to continue our relationships and make new friends.
It's awesome. Thank you for coming.
Yep. And Danny Collins says DWB race cars, which
is awesome because I got to see Benji Cole again. So
Yes.
Benji is like the influence to me to why I got in the DWB in the first place. I always respected Benji racing because he showed up in the Clash deal. My dad's racing the Clash deal, and it was, it was that time it was the Jeff, Ricky, Rambo show. One of those three were really, really good. And then Benji shows up with this Schwartz car and with a stack spring on the left rear, and then just kicked everybody's ass. Like, right. And it was like, and he just showed up. Like, nobody really knew who he was. And then I went and talked to him, and he was just a cool guy. Like, cool guy. And I wrapped his car for a long time. And then Anthony White I don't know, they got together or whatever, and then he got me hooked up with Anthony, and I just liked that crowd. It was just different. You had a different car than everybody else, and I just loved going to the racetrack. And I think a lot of it is because I didn't like having the same car as everybody else, because I feel like if I did crappy, then it'd be like that I have no excuse, right? At least if I did crappy in a car nobody else had, I can blame it on the car, right? So,
well, when I first heard what kind of chassis you had, a dirty white boy, I thought like it was just a nickname or you guys were joking around, but no, that's what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah. I still have the two of them. So, if I was more motivated, I would just like to see if they could still be competitive, but I don't know I don't think I'm that motivated, but anyways, but Benji with the train chassis came to the show, and it was really cool. I haven't seen Jamie, his wife, in probably 15 years. So and we just were talking about how we just kind of picked up where we left off. That's what's good about having good relationships with people, that you get to see people, and that some of those things like that are worth it within themselves, just to have an event to where everybody can go to.
Yep. And he says that car was great at 311 Speedway.
Yeah, my car was pretty good at 311. I have to say that. I'd say my car was pretty spot on up there. So, and it was really cool because the 311 thing is almost like the same as Charlotte and the same as Virginia Motor Speedway. I just took the same ride. It was, and us, it's pretty good at all those places. So.
Yep. And Alex is followed up. He says, "Thank you for the kind words. It's been a journey for sure, but couldn't do it without both of you. I owe it to Kate for pushing me to pursue my dreams, and also to you, Jimmy, for all of the advice and long-lasting friendship. You guys are the best." Well, thanks, Alex.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Alex is a great kid. If anybody's out there and you want to help somebody and somebody that appreciates it and you see it go to good use, I'd send that kid a check. So,
Good deal. Are you trying to make it so that our podcast is also the source for sponsorships for guys?
I mean, I always like to see good people succeed. And like I said, it's so important for me to, like, as I get older, and I guess I'm not that old. I'll be 49 this year. So, I still feel like I can do anything I could do when I was 21. So I don't think there's no part of this where I feel like, oh, I'm going to like die or anything like that. But it's just a legacy becomes more important to you as you get older. And like and it's important to me to be able to leave something that I've been so passionate about racing my whole life, ever since I was a little kid, as far as I can remember. And so and racing's been good to me in my life. I mean, I've been able to build a business and raise my kids off the money that I make from the racers and things like that. But also, like, I feel like it's important for us to leave this the racing in a great place in the hands of our kids generation. And how we do that is by not taking from the sport. We give back. You know what I'm saying?
And create opportunities.
If there's something that we can utilize our connections, our wisdom, our experience, whatever, to be able to help them. And our wisdom is the fact that, like, some of the issues that I'm talking about as far as costs and stuff like that, they're the same problems that we've always had in racing. It's always been that way. Somebody I can't remember who it was, but said it best where it was, they said that, how much does it cost to go racing? It's everything you have, right? It's always been that way. Mm-hmm. But there are limitations to that too. So there are a lot of things when it comes to rules and organizations and things like that, that I hope that we can be an influence. We can use the show as a platform to be able to influence, some of these things, to be able to guide, to be able to maybe get in that pilot seat a little bit,
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I
like,
agree.
for, just so the things that, it's like, stop supporting things that you don't believe in. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That's always that's always the equalizer, is like, stop buying tickets. You don't like something, stop going. So
yeah, I agree. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it. That we do strive to bring our best and to create opportunities in this sport. And we're looking forward. We had a great time at the last show, just a couple of days ago, and we're already starting to planning for the next one.
Yeah, I'm really excited about next year's show, and maybe we'll just keep posting some of the things that we're thinking about and planning for, as we go along, on the podcast. And obviously we would love to get feedback from everybody too. You guys let us know what's important to you. Like, the question is, what can we do as a show that will make you say, I have to go there?
Yeah.
That's what we need to know, And so, if we get more of those things, then we'll do the best on our side to be able to make that happen.
And what we would ask in return, if you could, head on over to the Cars Racing Show Facebook page, give us a like. We do have a YouTube channel. It only has a few videos on it, but, hit that subscribe button, go to our website, CrateInsider.com, join our email list. Every bit of that helps us all be connected, and that we've never seen this as you and I just doing this as a top-down show. We've always seen it as, hey, like, let's all work together on making this the best show possible, between, the feedback we get from attendees and what exhibitors, their input as well. We never tried to make this about ourselves, and that, like, we are the ones that are dictating everything. Somebody's got to organize and plan it and, just make it happen. But the decisions and the ideas, they don't have to all come from us.
That's exactly right. This is really, we can't have a show without the support of the exhibitors or the support of the attendees that are coming to, they're the ones that will ultimately decide whether or not we have a show or not.
Yeah.
And so, it needs to work out for both sides. And obviously the exhibitors want to sell more product, basically create more connections, create more relationships and things like that. And that's what the attendees are trying to do. And we're trying to put them together. And so, like you said, I think, to stress the part about how important it is for us to be able to contact you. The email thing is like, everybody's got an email address right now. Mm-hmm. Like, subscribe to the email, the email. We're not going to sell it. We're not going to abuse it, but we will certainly keep you posted with everything everything that's going on with the show and any sort of specials that we may have, and leading up to the show.
And we don't abuse it. So we're not going to email you every day. I can assure you, we're not going to come up with an email. If you get one once a month, that will be a miracle.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. But,
but it's like, important to be informed.
But if people, like, we've tried to badge people when they come in. If they don't want to give us their email address and they give us a bum email address or whatever, it's not helping them. No. And so, and what we kind of find is maybe those are the types of people that are like, they're the ones that complain because they didn't know about the show, but yet they'd come to other shows, but then they gave us the wrong email address. We're not going to pick up the phone and call everybody. You know what I mean? And there's no guaranteed way for us to reach everybody. And when people say, well, I didn't know about it, or I didn't hear about it, you should have let me know, whatever, all that sort of stuff. I mean, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like, how many thousands of postcards did we print?
Oh yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
a lot. And so did a lot of social media posting. Our crowd's on Facebook. We know that for the racing show. So a lot of that stuff was centered on Facebook, but definitely stay, subscribe to our email list, so that we can contact you, get your feedback. We'll send out surveys. We'll probably do drawings, I'm sure, for free stuff, whatever, all that sort of stuff. So it's just, we're not doing it because we're trying to, like create some list that we can sell. We'll never sell it. We can't. It's illegal anyway. So this is just for your benefit, and the exhibitor's benefit. So everybody wins. So
all right, with that, let's wrap it up. And
wrap it up.
Yep. I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for being here. Huge thanks to everyone who was an exhibitor at the Cars Racing Show or attended the Cars Racing Show. And, we'll look forward to seeing you. We'll be back next week. I am flying in next Monday. I don't know what time that is, but I'll double check on that. And
then send us some questions. If you'd like us to handle some questions of some kind or whatever. And if there's a question that we can't answer, then we'll get the answer. We'll get them on here and we'll talk about it,
we'll find out.
And we can probably, between her and I, we're probably the Kevin Bacon of the racing industry. We probably can get to about anybody. So one way or another, but
I may not always know the answer, but I usually know a guy.
I know a guy that knows a guy, so
that's it. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.